Alright, welcome back to the shop. I don't know how this will shake out editing wise. I keep saying that in all these videos, but things are sort of hectic in the sense that I've got a lot of different projects going on, and how I edit them and how they end up getting finished is, you know, yet to be determined. So I've got to shoot a lot of footage, and you don't see 1/10 of what I shoot pretty much. Anyway, we've got the media blaster up and running again. The big air compressor is running, and so that's all good news. And what we're going to do now is start working on some of the equipment that we got from my grandfather's shop. Apologize for the wind noise, but I think we're going to start on this sander, and we'll start breaking it down and cleaning the pieces up. But we've got to be careful. We're going to sandblast some of it, but there's a lot of little bearing journals and oil caps and things, and you don't want to inject that with blast bead. So we'll disassemble it, start getting it cleaned up. Welcome back to the shop. I am working on the motor that came with the belt sander, and I've got a lot of some of the other parts cleaned up and whatnot, but the motor sort of scared me because the wire, when I moved the wire, it disintegrated in my hands. It started snapping, and I didn't want this thing to dead short, so I figured if I could come in here and get close enough to the windings, I could rewire this. However, this didn't have my undivided attention, and despite trying to, you know, take pictures and notes, I am not 100% sure that I have this right so far. So I may have fixed this to death, but I've got to go forward before I know if I've, you know, I don't know anything about motors. So this is a tricky one for me. I'm going to have to do a lot of work, and there's a high possibility, a distinct probability that this is going to be all for naught. So we'll see how it shakes out, and you'll know in the final result. But anyway, these motors are serviceable in the sense that you can replace the bearings, and you know, I guess everything's serviceable. But I would say, I guess the takeaway from this is I was scared to disassemble this in the sense that I didn't want to uninstall the centrifugal clutch, this section, from the housing, and I started trying to piecemeal things, and that's where I got in trouble. I think you need to disassemble everything and replace one wire at a time. That would have served me much better, and I was too far deep into this before I realized what I was doing. So that's to say that, you know, it was probably a mistake that I could have seen, looked forward and like, you know, thought my way through ahead of time. But there's no replacement for actually getting out here and trying things and breaking stuff. For me. So I'm trying it. Hopefully this works. If it works, I'll be happy. If not, you know, I'll find another motor. So let me get back to work. I'm not going to do time lapse of this because, again, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just putting along, soldering, and heat shrinking. Well, I got the motor running. It's rated at 5.4 amps, and it's running at 4.7 with no load. I'm thinking that's pretty good. So that's nice. It's not prettied up or anything like that. One problem at a time. I think I don't have these drive pins to knock this out, and then it would be nice to clean this all up, but I was really worried that it wasn't going to come back together right. So right now I'm going to just keep moving forward and try to get this thing functional. This is more than okay for right now. And Clay has been working on all the little bits and pieces. He's been hot bluing some stuff with some oil and a torch. We'll see how that shakes out. This is the base. You may have seen some, or will see some footage of me media blasting that. And then here is the bits and pieces for this. There's quite a few little pieces here, but we'll let it dry, start assembling it. So when you've got the sun in your back, you can't see in the machine, so Clay found a hood thing and a couple shovels. It's ingenious. Alright, I messed up and got the bolt mounting holes out of alignment, so I had to disassemble the motor. And since I did that, Clay likes the outside finish, so we'll just like wax or oil or something the outside of this. But the centerpiece is pretty rusty, and I have some evapo rust in here. They were supposed to send me the gel, what I ordered, but I got the fluid. But anyway, I just cut this old jug in half and turn it on its side, give me a little bit more surface area. So we'll see how this thing comes out when it's done. Alright, well, I think we've sort of ran into a thing that you don't want to do with these. Either they added electrical tape to this thing. You think that is electrical tape?
It's the like and kind.
Well, whatever it is, it's coming apart now. I had this thing just sitting in the media blaster, and
we're gonna tape her up again.
Yeah, well, we'll deal with it, but it's chowder now, whatever was on there. Alright, here's the Sears and Roebuck sander. I think it turned out pretty nice. I need to, I needed to remove some of the rubber that was on here. You probably would have just seen some time lapse of that. They had this casting must have been bad, and they ended up putting a piece of rubber on it. And the rubber ended up taking some of the casting with it, as you can see. So then I just took some of the Christie's tape and went over it. But what happened, the reason I had to do this was because this increased the diameter of the wheel, and I was having all sorts of problems trying to get this mounted. So we'll go ahead and, I think, run it like this for a while and see how that works. Let me hand the camera off to Clay, and we'll do a little grinding on this chowdered up wrench. Well, it's not a big speed demon or anything like that, but I think that's going to be a nice tool to have in the shop, and I sure do like the way it looks. I didn't do too much to the motor other than take it apart and put some new wires on it. And this belt, if you watch some of my older videos, Active Adam, Lance and Patrick over there had used a similar belt. I think they used round belts for their watchmaker's lathes. But this I got from McMaster's Car, which is a 1/2-inch V belt, and then you just melt it and you can get any length you want. It is an outstanding, thing to have in the shop when you're fabricating your own stuff and not trying to hunt down the appropriate size belt. They're not as high power as a regular belt, but for things like this, they're perfect. And I also have one on my surface grinder. But I think it's a neat project. I enjoyed doing. I don't know, Clay, you got anything to say?
Not me.
Alright, so I guess that's probably a good wrap up this episode. And have a good night.